The big international news tonight, the International Criminal Court, its judges have issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin for alleged war crimes in Ukraine. The Hague-based court claims that Putin is responsible for the unlawful deportation of children and their unlawful transfer from occupied areas of Ukraine to the Russian Federation. A second person, Maria Alekseyevna Lvova-Belova, the Commissioner for Children's Rights in the Office of the President of the Russian Federation, is charged with the same crimes.
The ICC says the pre-trial chamber has found that there are reasonable grounds to believe that both President Putin and Ms. Lvova-Belova bear responsibility for the war crime of unlawful deportation of children and that of their unlawful transfer from occupied areas of Ukraine to Russia.
The International Criminal Court has issued 2 warrants of arrest in the Ukraine situation. For Vladimir Putin, President of the Russian Federation, and for Maria Lvova-Belova, Commissioner of the Russian President for Children's Rights, for the alleged war crimes of deportation of children from Ukrainian occupied territories into the Russian Federation.
The ICC says there are reasonable grounds to believe that both accused bear individual criminal responsibility for the aforementioned crimes and for having committed the acts directly or jointly with others and for failure to exercise control over civilian and military subordinates who committed or allowed these acts.
This is an important moment in the process of justice before the ICC. The judges have reviewed the information and evidence submitted by the prosecutor and determined that there are credible allegations against these persons for the alleged crimes. The ICC is doing its part of work. As a court of law, the judges issued arrest warrants. Their execution depends on international cooperation.
Russia is not a signatory to the Rome Statute and does not recognize the court's jurisdiction. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova said on social media that the arrest warrants have no meaning for Russia, including from a legal point of view. Sherwin Bryce-Pease, SABC News, New York.
From New York, live, Sherwin Bryce-Pease joining us now. Sherwin, the implications actually hit home here. Social media already abuzz with the fact that Putin is expected to attend a BRICS summit here later this year. Just remind us what the ICC is saying, what it means going forward, particularly for parties to the Rome Statute.
So I'll touch, Francis, on that possible visit by the Russian president to South Africa for that BRICS summit later this year. But this was an arrest warrant issued for 2 people in Russia, the president of the Federation, Vladimir Putin, and Maria Alekseyevna Lvova-Belova, a commissioner for children's rights in the office of the president. And what the pre-trial chamber is saying here is that both of them are allegedly responsible for the war crime of unlawful deportation of children from occupied areas of Ukraine. They go further to say that both these individuals bear individual criminal responsibility for the aforementioned crimes. We have been reporting earlier this week, Francis, that ICC prosecutor Karim Khan had opened investigations into the deportation of children, an illegal act under international law, and also the focus and attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure. So what these 2 arrest warrants tell us is that this is not the end of the ICC case. They are still investigating other war crimes and possible atrocity crimes in Ukraine. So this is just the first decision handed down by the ICC pre-trial chamber. What this then has is implications for all signatories to the Rome Statute, which includes a country like South Africa. Remember, the ICC does not have the power. It does not have a standing military or police force to enforce the decisions of its pre-trial chambers. What it then relies on are the signatories to the Rome Statute, and we've seen this play out before in South Africa. When you think back to 2015, the attendance of former Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir attending an African Union summit in South Africa, it was then incumbent on South Africa to arrest him. The South African government, of course, failed to do that. This was a matter then ventilated in the courts. The Supreme Court of Appeal handing down a decision calling the actions of the South African government at the time disgraceful for not arresting the former president of Sudan. And so were a Vladimir Putin to set foot in a country like South Africa that has legal responsibilities in terms of its various articles of the Rome Statute to arrest an accused, certainly by the ICC, we know how this will have to play, given that court decision, were Vladimir Putin to attend anything or set foot in South Africa. The ICC, Francis, has 123 states parties. That's about two-thirds of the international community. What this decision now does is it really precludes Vladimir Putin and his co-accused of traveling to these countries, because the risk of arrest is now imminent and certainly a real threat to his ability to move around the world. So this, again, is just the beginning of what the ICC is going to hand down here. This is not the end of their investigations. There are various permutations to Russia's invasion of Ukraine in terms of violations of international law. The ICC prosecutor is looking at all of that, including the attacks on civilian infrastructure in Ukraine that are not military targets. And so one expects that this is just the beginning of more indictments to come down.
All right, thank you for that explanation. What has the reaction been? Is it coming through yet from the United Nations, human rights organizations broadly as well?
Yeah, Stefan Dujarric, the spokesperson for the Secretary General, was asked just a short time ago, Francis, what his reaction was. And he says the ICC is independent of the UN Secretariat. We do not comment on their actions, says Stefan Dujarric. The question that was put to him, will the Secretary General talk and still meet with Vladimir Putin? Remember, there's the renewal of the all-important grain deal, which is a very pertinent issue in terms of food security. There are various engagements in terms of climate change that Russia plays a very significant role in. Russia is a permanent member of the UN Security Council, so a lot at stake here. The Secretary General spokesperson saying we will continue to speak to anyone in order to deal with the issues of the day, the issues before us, and that includes someone that is indicted or not, it seems, at the ICC. Human Rights Watch said this, Francis, this is a big day for many victims of crimes committed by Russian forces in Ukraine since 2014. With these arrest warrants, the ICC has made Putin a wanted man and taken its first step to end impunity that has emboldened perpetrators in Russia's war against Ukraine for far too long. Again, worth noting, Russia does not recognize the jurisdiction of the ICC, neither does the United States, neither does China. So the big countries certainly do not recognize jurisdiction here. Also going to be interesting to see how the United States reacts to this, right? They talk about cooperating with the court. One imagines that given their position in this conflict, they will certainly cooperate on this. The question is, where will Putin go? He'll only go to safe countries now, given that it is incumbent on the 123 states parties to the Rome Statute to arrest him were he to set foot in their territories, Francis.
All right, thank you very much. Explosive breaking news earlier tonight, explained there by our correspondent in the US, Sherwin Bryce Pease. And of course, Putin, now an arrest warrant issued for him by the International Criminal Court. He is due to come to South Africa later this year.